Okay, today is July 27th, our final meeting for before our summer break. We will have our next meeting for our general community meeting will be September 7th. So everybody have some great downtime. We all deserved it. We do have a meeting coming up around governance though, and everybody was invited, and that will be on, I think it is 13th, maybe. Yes, on interesting. On Friday the 13th of August, we will do a governance working committee kind of kickoff. So if you're interested in working on the governance, I am going to go through it really quick here. There's a document that I'm going to go ahead and share, so everybody make sure you can get to it. We made some changes. I'm just going to go over that so you can be thinking about it. Let me put it in the chat. And yes, please sign in to this document in case. So let me share my screen. Okay, so we're working on bylaws for a governance board. Governance boards are important because if we ever get to a point that we can say that we want to apply to be a graduated project, we have to have a governance board. And the governance board will be allow us to create different, I guess you'd call roles. So I worked on this document over last week. The important things that I want to cover in particular is how we have at this point been talking about laying out the governance board. So the way that the governance board itself would work is we've copied this after Jenkins as much as possible, but we've added additional seats. In the same way that Kosuke stayed on the board with Jenkins, we have put Steve Taylor as the permanent fixture on the governance board, and he can remain on the board until he decides to step down. Then there's an additional 6 board members. In our elections that will kick off in September, we'll have 3 people run for 2-year terms and 3 people run for 1-year terms. This allows us to have a rotating board because there'll be follow-up elections every year. Now, the people who run for 1-year terms can run for re-election, and then they would have a 2-year term. So only in the first election do we have people with 1-year terms. No single company or organization shall have employees or reps make up more than 50% of the board, and we'll follow the standard Robert's Rules of Order in running the board. There'll be the governance board once formed and elected will have officers, and they have to have a minimum of 2 officers. So once the board is elected, they will internally elect a chair to the board and a secretary to the board, the chair being the person who calls the meetings to order, manages the agenda, and calls the meeting to end. And the secretary will be responsible for recording the meeting and taking meeting minutes, and both of those are for 1-year terms. And then the board shall elect officers on the first meeting following the election of new board members. The suggested roles so far are security officer, release officer, and product management officer. Security officer would be somebody who helps manage any internal licensing, any third-party licenses. We would have a release officer that would maintain the automation around our release process. And then we have a product manager who helps manage the Ortelius roadmap. So those are 5 total. We probably would have 1 more. So each person on the board would have a role. And then we have 2 additional people. These are non-voting board attendees. And they will be, there's going to be 2 positions that are non-voting. We often call them non-binding because they can provide input in what they think how a decision should be made, except that only the elected board gets to vote. And there'll be 2 of those. One will be a chairperson for the champions and a chairperson for the ambassadors. Right now, Steve is serving as the champion chair, and Siddharth is serving as the de facto ambassador chair. So we'll want to have those as elected positions, and those elected positions will always be invited to the board and be part of the board discussions. And then I'm leaving it open where the board can invite other individuals, so we can have the board open, or the board can decide to have those decisions closed. That will be left up to the board. If the board wants it to be open, anybody can attend, and anybody can have a non-binding vote. But they'll have to have at least invite these two individuals to the board. The way the elections will work is we will have the elections each September. And I don't think I went through this before and we didn't change any of this. The general members of the community will be encouraged to nominate themselves or others to the board. Anyone can be nominated to the board. So let's say we decide we want to nominate Tracy Miranda to be on our board. Even though she's not part of the Ortelius community, she can be nominated to the board. But only people who are, right now, I'm going to do it based on everybody who's in the Google groups. So you have to be officially part of the Google groups in order to be able to vote. Those emails that are in the Google groups will be sent to let them know that there is a vote coming, and that we want to use this voting service, something like this, this online voting service, and that will give them a chance to opt out their email to the voting service and not vote. And the announcement must be completed by the first week of December, and we will coordinate that with our year-end activity that we do. There is this document, and then there is another document that covers this in a PowerPoint, but this is where the core of the material is. So I'd encourage you to take a look at it. If you've been on a board before, if you've worked in an open source community and we're forgetting something about the governance board that we need to be reminded of and needs to be added, please just go ahead and add it. And then we will have our meeting on the 13th to cover it. And right now, since we don't have a board, it will just be a general member, whoever's on the working committee for that governance board will get to approve or not approve, and we'll work on it until we get it done. And we have to have it done by September the 24th and ready to send out the votes. So we did, I think there's been a lot of work done on it. I don't know how much more work that we will put on it in it until the 13th. So any updates will be super appreciated. There's also another doc that Siddharth and the folks who are working on the podcast. We still really need to get our podcast going. I'm not even going to think about it until September. But there is a shared doc out here, and let me quickly see if I can find it. If anybody is interested. Where's my? Okay. Let me just look with shared. Where would they have put it? And Steve, while I do this, if there's anything you want to cover, and I'll find this other.
Yep. So just a quick thing on the board. It's really good to put that on the resume. So, you know, think about it, you know, running for the board. You know, it's one of those, when people look at your resume, it's definitely a plus to have on there when you're working with the open source community and you're a board member. Let me go ahead and share my screen. And just give you a quick update of where we are with the service catalog. So I'm not going to go through everything. I'm just going to go through what we've been working on. So most of everything has been focused around the components. I'm going to go into this one component. And you can see that we've split the boxes apart. We have more service catalog information, like the service owner, the email, the phone numbers. And then the next part is we brought in the README file. So as part of the our our Python program that fits into like the Jenkins pipeline. We actually grabbed the README file that's the markdown coming from the Git repo, and we've brought that in. So we have a full markdown of for this service, what the README is, and then also the Swagger. We brought that in as well. So Ukarsh, that this is where I took your code that you gave me and brought it in. So we have, it's actually interactive, and we can actually do different things with it right here inside of the Ortelius UI. And then what we've been working on lately is scanning for CVEs and licenses. So here we can actually see the licenses that are being consumed. We actually have a package out there that doesn't have a license. And then we have, all the different licenses, and I can click on these and it'll take me actually, let me go to a different one, pick the wrong one. Go to MIT, see if that's going to bring it. It'll bring us actually to the license that's part of the SPDX. SPDX tracks all the licenses that are out there, and that's what this long list is. So that's some of the stuff that we're bringing in. CVEs will work the same way. Well, we'll have the package, the CVE in the package, and a link over to dive into the CVE details. Some of the other things we did was we moved some of the boxes around. So the deployments we moved to the bottom, and I believe the dependency map is now down here. I don't know if this is where they're going to stay, but I just got them out of the way for now, so we can get all the service catalog data together. So,
Hey, Steve, would you scroll all the way down and show that dependency map at the bottom? Can you make that box scroll bigger? I guess it's going to scroll to the size of what we need to see.
No. So what this is this is just a placeholder. So I just had to move it. It used to be in this upper right-hand corner.
Yeah,
so
I know.
It used to be really big.
Yeah.
And in the coding, I've been focusing on bringing in the new data. And once we figure out where we're going to move this, then I'll get it resized. So it's
I think it's perfect where it's at.
So we'll just, if that, because we have this other one here, and I don't know if we're going to move these two next to each other.
I think not having them next to each other is better, because then they can size better.
Okay. And then we'll just add some a larger size to that. That's not a problem.
I'm thinking that though, the dependency map, you have these other map, like you have deployed environments, right?
Yeah, there's some boxes that we, like endpoints. That's a very short list. Key value pairs can be a smaller list, and it can grow if we're bringing in like a whole properties file for a cluster for the service. So okay. This scroll bar.
All I was going to say is maybe we put all the maps at the bottom.
Well, that's what I was saying. We can move this.
Yeah.
This one down next to the other one.
I wouldn't put them. I wouldn't put them next to each other. I would just put them in a row.
Yeah, and there's some things like this one. Consuming applications is usually just 50% of the screen because it's such a small. But I just have to move some things around.
Okay. Well, it looks great. I can't wait to play on it. And everybody, we're going to have to do some work getting this documented. I'm guessing that's what we'll be busy with come most of September. Yeah. And if anybody wants to start working on any kind of documentation for this now, Steve, is there a place that we can get to it yet?
No, I have not checked this in yet. I'm still, I should have it by the end of the week. I should have something out there. Part of it is we have to change the installation instructions because this is based on microservices. So to install and use this now, instead of just being a single Docker container, it needs to run in Kubernetes. So the install process is going to be the first thing that gets documented. And
So do you have
there'll be
any,
changes like Helm charts that will be created and stuff like that to do the deployment.
so do you have tickets open for that? So anybody might, if anybody's interested in working on that through the summer break, might be an interesting project.
Don't remember if I created them yet because things were this literally just is coming together, relatively good in the last couple from last week. Pull requests. I don't think. A lot of these are closed. I don't think we have the Kubernetes part of that out here yet. We do have things like updating Docker images to get ready for that, going into Kubernetes, but we don't have the like the Istio or Nginx routing in place for Kubernetes. We don't have a ticket for that. I'll
Okay.
add those things so they'll be out there to use.
Because that's a really good way to learn both Kubernetes and how the routing's done to work on pulling that together, even documenting it.
So that's kind of where we're at. It's coming along really nice. So that's what we have, and going to be, some of the things that we'll have to do is we'll actually be using Ortelius. We actually used Ortelius and Deploy Hub to track deployments of Ortelius and Deploy Hub out to our SaaS world and our Azure cluster and our Google clusters. So that will be some of the things we need to do is like add Swagger for all our microservice APIs. So there's documentation that we need to put together.
And no one from Google will ever ask for this code. Your code is 3.
Hey, Gonda,
5.
you might want to mute.
7. 7. Again,
but that
code is 3.
That's what I have going on. And Ukarsh, thank you so much for working on this. He's been a huge help pulling all the data together from the microservice perspective. We've actually, one of the things that we've done is put a wrapper around some of the Cyclone and Python scanning tools. So it's just a way for us to leverage the existing tools out there. Doesn't mean that a company can't use something like SNCC or one like white source or something like that. But we needed something to grab data, and that's why we want some of those open source tools. It really depends upon how people are going to put security scans and license scans into their pipeline. And depending upon that, we'll have to do some pivoting and some adapting to pipelines and security scans when we see more. Right now, we don't have enough exposure to those tools. So that's why we went with some of the Cyclone DX and the Python libraries. So that part will be continually, constantly being updated.
Okay, the other doc that I was going to share with you, everybody should have it now. It's in the chat. This is the outline for if you're going to host, and this is what we hope that we will be doing in the fall, as we'll really kick these podcasts off, and we'll have different people hosting and different people presenting. That way, everybody gets an opportunity to be a personality, and everybody gets an opportunity to be somebody interviewed. So this is just what it will look like. It's a suggestion on how the show should run. things to look at if you want to add anything. For this, just a template is like, here's some reoccurring questions. The two things we ask everybody on the show. Tell us something about cloud native that you recently learned, and what's one thing you wish you would have known sooner. And so it's just a format. So if you want to, if you're interested in being involved in it, that has been shared with everybody, and you guys can take a look at it and add what you want, and put anything out there that you think it should look like. And then we'll probably have a call on it in the ambassador calls in the early part of September, and start running them, because we have everything else, I think, in order to do it. And I think we are up at 7 minutes before our 30 minutes is up. I am going to open it up to everybody and ask if there's anything that we have missed that we should be talking about, or anything that anybody wants to cover before we close out our last community meeting before our summer break.
Tracy, can you post that link back in chat? It didn't come across you. It was the old, it was the wrong link.
Okay.
I just want to paste it into the meeting minutes.
And I just shared it with everybody, so everybody should have it. So if somebody could click on it and make sure that you can get to it. And I think we have potentially a new person. Hudson, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, hello everyone. I'm Tautu Brazil. It's first time here, and sorry, my English is very rusty.
Hey, it's better than it's better than my second language, which is none.
Nice to meet you for now, and thanks for stay here today.
Well, thank you for coming. I'm glad you were able to make it to our last one of the
Summer.
Yeah, the summer. Everybody's been working so hard, it just made sense. But Hudson, we are going to continue the architecture calls. So everybody, you'll see on your calendars that you still have architecture meetings. And we need to do that because of the work we need to do to get the release that Steve just showed out the door. So if you have not started contributing, and this would be a really good area to do so, especially if you want to learn more about Kubernetes and running installers and some of the basic stuff that we're doing on that. That would be a good project to start on. And as everybody here knows, but Hudson, you may not know, you can always reach out to Steve. Steve, would you post your calendar?
Yeah, let me find it.
If you ever need it, it's out on the Deploy Hub site. So if I show
It's on the Ortelius one too.
Okay. Why don't you just share your screen and show where your calendar is?
Yeah.
So if you want to get involved and you have questions about how to do so, just reach out to Steve and he will get you going.
Let me share my screen. So just on the Ortelius website, if you go over to Ask the Expert, there will be for me, just to click on that and it'll bring up my calendar, and you can pick a time and that works for you. And then Tracy's is out there as well. Also, if you need to do a one-off, I'm on the Discord channel. So that's the easiest way. We do have a lot of, if you have like a question on how to do something, or if you're looking for something, the fastest way is to post it on the Discord channel, because there's more people watching that, and they can jump in and get you what you need. So if you're not on that, let me bring that up. Most people, I think, are. Look at the invites.
Okay, thanks. And I need to find the date for the with calling for you or
Okay.
Okay?
Yep.
And I imagine for the next 1 or 2 weeks, I have a time, okay?
Yep, that works. I will be here working on the wrapping up our service catalog release. So feel free whenever you can, whatever time works on for you that's on my calendar, just go ahead and grab that time slot. And usually I think that one is like 15 minutes or half hour, but if we need to take more time, we can as part of that process.
Okay, thanks, Steve.
No problem.
All right, everybody, if we don't talk to you sooner, have a great August. Get some downtime, go hike, jump in some water, do whatever it is that makes you happy, because September is going to get busy again. And with September, we have a show starting again. It'll just start adding up. So I'm hoping you all can take some good downtime. I plan on riding horses for the next 4 weeks. I'm going to do that as much as I can.
And what I'll do is when I get those issues created around documentation and the Kubernetes for our microservices, I will ping everybody on Discord to let you know that there's new issues if you want to grab something to take a look and work on. If you're not an expert in any of that, that's not a problem. We will work with you to teach you the skills that you need to implement those things. So, alrighty, thank you, everybody.
Hey, speak soon.
Yeah,
Stay
thanks
safe.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Happy
Bye,
holidays.
thanks.